Okay, this is the 8.1 to 8.2 notes, and the objectives for today are to find and simplify the ratio of two numbers, and also to use proportions to solve real-life problems. Okay, a couple of the vocabulary words that you're going to need to know are extremes and means, and this can be found on page 459. And the means of a proportion are the inside, the top left, or the top right and the bottom left of the proportion. So C and B in this example. And the extremes are the top left and the bottom right of a proportion. And in this case, it's A and D. Okay, the other vocabulary word that you need to know is geometric mean. And if they ask you to find the geometric mean, all you have to do is cross multiply A times B, and then take the square root of that. And that will give you what x equals. And then x is, in this case, is the same number. X, x times x is x squared. So x is equal to the square root of whatever A times B is. Now this works if both of the numbers are positive numbers. We'll do some examples for this later. Okay, some of the properties that you'll want to get down for your note cards. First one is the cross product property, and that's on page 459. And that one says if A over B equals C over D, then we can cross multiply and those two will be equal. So A times D will equal B times C. Next property is the reciprocal property on page 459. And it says if A over B equals C over D, then B over A equals D over C. So remember, reciprocal is just flipping the fraction over. So basically the reciprocals are also equal to each other. And there are two additional properties that they have put on page 466. And the first one says if A over B equals C over D, then that means that you can kind of change the order up, and A over C is also equal to B over D, meaning that you can go this way and put those over each other. And then the last property on 466 says if A over B equals C over D, then A plus B over B equals C plus D over D. So the problems that I'll be doing are on page 462 to 464, number 30, 32, 57, and 63. And then in the next lesson, 468 to 470, 10, 14, 22, 26, and 30. Now problem number 30 is we're going to be using what's called extended ratios to solve. So the information that they give me in this problem is that the area is 108 centimeters squared, and that the ratio of the width to the length is 3 to 4. Now what you're going to do is put an x behind the 3 and the 4 because we know that the number that I multiply 3 by and the number that I multiply 4 by is going to be the same number since these are a ratio. So I've put my x behind each number, so I know the width is going to be 3 times whatever we find x to be, and length is going to be 4 times whatever we find x to be. Now I'll set up an equation and solve. Since this figure is a rectangle, I know that the area can be found by doing length times width. Now I'll substitute. So the area is 108, and the length is 4x, and the width is 3x. So I'm going to do 4x times 3x, and let that equal 108. 3x times 4x is 12x squared. Remember, x times x is x squared. Now I'll divide by 12 and then take the square root. So after I divide by 12, I get x squared equals 9. And then to solve that, I need to take the square root of both sides. So x is equal to 3. Now I need to finish up the problem because it asked me to find both the length and the width. So now that I know what x is, I can substitute 3 in place of x. So that means that my width is 9 centimeters, and that means my length is 12 centimeters. Okay, on page 462, number 32, I know that the angle ratio of a triangle is 2 to 15 to 19. So I'm going to put x behind each one of these. And so my first angle in my triangle is 2x, second angle is 15x, and my third angle is 19x. Now I'll set up an equation using the information that I know that 3 angles of a triangle add up to be 180 degrees. I'll set that equation up and solve it. So I added the 3 angles together, 2x plus 15x plus 19x, and that should equal 180 degrees. Adding my like terms together, I get 36x equals 180. Divide by 36 and I get x equals 5. Now to finish up the problem to find each angle, I'm just going to multiply each of them by 5. So the first angle is 10 degrees. The second angle is 75 degrees. And the third angle is 95 degrees because 19 times 5 is 95 degrees. Okay, on page 463, number 57, I know that my side length ratio is 1 to 3 on these 2 triangles. I know that from the information that they gave me that I'm going to set up 1 over 3 equal to, and then I know that in the small triangle that the one of the legs, the height of that triangle is 5, so I can find the height of the big triangle by just cross multiplying and dividing here. So I know that when I cross multiply, that side length is 15, and that side length is SU. That's the height of the big triangle. And I can just keep going and do that each time. Again, setting up my ratio 1 over 3 on the base of the bigger triangle is 36. So notice I'm putting the 36 on the bottom of the fraction because it's the larger one, and I'll have x up here. So when I cross multiply here, I've got 3x equals 36. When I divide both sides by 3, I get x equals 12. So that's the base of the small triangle, which is RQ. And then I can do the other ones. I can do the hypotenuse of each ST and PQ using information that I already have. So since these are right triangles, I can use the Pythagorean theorem to find one of them, and then I can find the other one. So I'm going to do that with a smaller triangle. I'm going to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And one of the legs is 5. And I found the other leg to be 12. So I got 25 plus 144 equals c squared. And that's 169. And then take the square root, and so that's 13. And then I can set my ratio up to find the hypotenuse of the larger triangle. This is the hypotenuse of the smaller triangle, which is PQ. And then the hypotenuse of the larger triangle, is going to be 3 times bigger than this. So, because the ratio is 1 over 3. So that means ST is going to be equal to 39, because it's 3 times bigger than the other one. Okay, I think I said I was going to do 63, but I'm going to do 62 since it's an even number. So in this problem, we have a triangle, and I know that BC is 6, and I know AC they're calling x, and then BA they're calling x plus 2. The other information they give me is that it's in an extended ratio of 3 to 4 to 5. Now I can't use x's this time since they're using x's in this problem, so I'm going to use y's. So I know that BC is 3y, and that is equal to 6. So I know the number that I need to multiply everything by is 2. So AC is 4y, and 4 times 2 is 8. So that means that AC is 8. And then AB is, we can do it one of two ways. We know it's 5y, 5 times 2 is 10, or we know that it's 2 more than AC, so it's 8 plus 2 or 10. Doesn't matter which way you do this one. So 5y is equal to AB, and again we found that the number I'm multiplying by is 2, so that means that AB is 10. Okay, looking on page 468, looking at number 10, it says if x over 6 is equal to y over 34, then x over y is equal to what over what? Now remember, this is one of those additional properties that I had you write down on page 465. It didn't really have a name, but remember, if we go this way, we can put those x over y over each other, and then we can put 6 over 34 over each other. So the answer is 6 over 34, or reduced, it's 3 over 17. Okay, number 14 on page 468, we're just supposed to tell whether this statement is true or false. And this statement says if 3 over 4 equals p over r, then 4 over 3, its reciprocal, will also equal p over r. And that's a false statement, because I would need to flip the second fraction as well. So 4 over 3 should be equal to r over p. Okay, on number 22, we're just supposed to find the geometric mean of 5 and 15. So the formula for geometric mean is just x squared equals your two numbers multiplied together, 5 times 15. Multiplying that together, I get x squared equals 75. So taking the square root of both sides, I know that x is equal to the square root of 75, and I've broken that down into a perfect square, 25 times 3, because 25 times 3 is 75. So I know that the square root of 25 is 5, so I'll bring that outside the radical. So the geometric mean of 5 and 15 is 5 times the square root of 3. Okay, on page 469, number 26, they've given us a proportion to set up. They're telling us that SP is a ratio of SK, and then SQ can be set up over SJ, and then they've given us some numbers, and so we're just going to fill those into our proportion. Now the side we're trying to find is SQ, so I'm going to let that be X. So filling in the information I know that SP is 7, I know that SK is 9, because on that side KP is 2, so 7 plus 2 is 9, and then SQ is X, and SJ, I don't know that, but I know that it's X plus this 5. So now I'll cross multiply and solve my proportion. Cross multiplying, I've got 7 times the quantity x plus 5 equals 9x. Now I'll distribute. So I have 7x plus 35 equals 9x. Now I'll move my like terms together. So 9x minus 7x is 2x, then dividing both sides by 2, I get x is equal to 17.5. So that means that SQ, since that's the one I called x and that's the one I'm trying to find, that one's 17.5. Now on number 30 on page 469, you'll have to get out a ruler, but what they tell us on this one is that the scale of this drawing is that 1/16 of an inch represents 1 foot. So when they want me to find the length of the actual house given the drawing that they've drawn for you in the book. So I have to get out my ruler, and the length of the house on this drawing is 2.5 inches. So I'm going to find out how many feet is that in real life. So I have my proportion set up. I've got my drawing sizes on the top of my proportion, and I've got the actual sizes on the bottom. So cross multiplying, I'll have 1/16 x equals 2.5. Now I'll divide both sides by 1/16. So 2.5 divided by 1/16 is 40. So the length of the house, if the length is 2.5 inches on the drawing, in actual real life, the length of the house is going to be 40 feet. So your homework for these two lessons are page 462 to 464, 11, 15, 23, 27 to 31 odd, and 39, 47, 55, and 63. That's from lesson 8.1. And then from lesson 8.2, page 468 to 470, numbers 9 through 29 odd. Remember when you finish that, that you need to be working on Study Island Unit 8 for 7th grade, Study Island Unit 9 for 8th graders, and then you can work on a Study Island high school topic after that.